becomes A times BC. Here, for our discussion, C is represented by 5 plus X. So here, B multiplied by C means that you take 8 and multiply it by not just 5, but it is multiplied by 5 plus X. So, okay, so you get 22 over 8 by 5 plus X. See, and now that's a whole different, you have to know how to use your laws. That's why I urge people to continue, you can't just get 1 or 2 videos from me and think you know what you're doing. If you started off needing me, I'm the tutor for a reason. It's a reason you need my services. So now here, 8 times, you distribute 8 into the sum. So you get 40 plus 8x. And that's and that is your final answer. That's as much as you can evaluate it to, because you don't know what x is. 22 over 40x. Also, I want to show you that you could reduce this 22/8 also before, at that point. In the last example I showed you, you could have did it as well. Now, what I just showed you is the most simplest way, but without reducing before you're done. I don't like to reduce anything before I'm done with I'm doing my final calculation. But here, you see 22/8. Just focusing on 22/8. If you take half of both of those, you're going to get 11/4, okay? See what I'm saying? That's equivalent. That's equal to that. So here, this is the same 22/8. You could put 11/4 there. And then you would get, which is equivalent to the last expression, you would get 11 over 4 by 5 plus x, which equals 11 over 20 plus 4x, which is equivalent to the last answer. It's still correct. I'm just showing you. Now next we're going to move on. And now, I want to show you an example. We're still evaluating. Now I want to show you an example. We're using some basic expression, x equals b by t. Okay, x, in physics, we usually say x is distance, okay? X equals the distance traveled. The distance traveled by an object. Or you can say a point. The distance traveled by a point. V is, we call that the average velocity, or speed. Speed, okay? T is called the time, or elapsed time. Which is time, okay? Okay, now x equals v by t. Okay, and v equals x over t. Okay, and t equals x over v. Okay, t equals x over, that's a v there, x over v. Okay, so knowing this, dealing with this formula here, this is a distance formula. This is distance. Distance equals v by t, where v is the speed and t is time. Or you would say d equals s by t. D is distance, s is speed, and t is time. Okay, same thing. Same thing. Okay, now let's say somebody travels for somebody traveled a distance. Let's say x equals 50 miles. Okay, x equals 50 miles. Right? X equals 50 miles. Let's say t, let's say that t equals okay, let's say t equals 1/2 of an hour. Okay, a half an hour. Here we're going to evaluate. We want to find v. So here we have to evaluate for v. V is the speed. So what I'm saying is, I could ask you the question. I could say, if a man or anybody, if something, let's say I say somebody traveled 50 miles in one direction. They traveled 50 miles, and it took them a half an hour to get there. What speed did they travel to get there? See, now that's, so how do you find this? Okay. Now that comes in knowing what to do, what you're looking at. You know, x equals v by t. That's a multiplication. So here, these are factors. Okay. Anytime you have a multiplication, if you want to, in order to find v, we're gonna have to move t to the other side. Okay. So like I said, v is equal to x over t. Remember? So we know that v equals x over t. So now we simply just substitute our values for x and t to find v. Okay? Meaning that we know that v equals x over t. We might not know the value of v, but we know the formula to find it, which is x over t. So we know x is 50 miles. You see? And t is what? 1/2. Okay? 1/2 of an hour. 1/2 times hour. Okay? 50 miles. V equals 50 miles divided by 1/2 hour. Now here I wanted to point out something. Here you have 1/2 hour. That's 1/2. Anytime you see your units in algebra are treated as algebraic quantities, meaning they can be canceled out or multiplied by. You see what I'm saying? So here this 1/2 hour equals 1 hour over 2. Okay? Right? So here, that's like 1 hour over 2. See? Now, remember, anytime you're dividing